to the Pulse of Spokane. Join us for the latest in news, views, and conversation with community leaders. The Pulse of Spokane is brought to you in part by Homes for You, Well Dressed Walrus, and Spokane Firefighters Local 29. Now, put your finger on the Pulse of Spokane.
Well, welcome to the Pulse of Spokane. Kent Adams here. It's the 24th, the day after my son's birthday. Of course, he's 42, so we don't, he's old at this point. Hey, I've got a great lineup today on the program. I hope you'll stay tuned and watch all of it. Phil Altemeyer from the Union Gospel Mission is here, and there's been a lot of controversy in terms of the homeless. We'll put quotes around that, the homeless issues here in Spokane, and we're going to talk about that and help define some of the terms that are used these days. The other is John Driscoll, who will be here from the Summit Cancer Foundation, and then Mike Miloscia from the Family Policy Institute next on the Pulse of Spokane.
Here at Creative Music Learning Center, we are dedicated to your learning no matter where you are on your journey. Whether you are a beginner, a casual player, or need some brushing up on technique, we are here for you. When you begin lessons with us, our teachers take the time to understand what kind of learner you are and how we can help you further your knowledge, offering a variety of instruments including piano, guitar, voice, violin, and more. We are here and ready to get started with you. The economy is getting stronger, banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com. Think of North Idaho Events as your business development advisor. We produce events of all kinds: trade shows, themed expos, fundraisers, corporate workshops, and more. We will discover the most appropriate event that your company can most opportunistically shine. We provide the platform to feature local businesses in front of a high quantity of their ideal customer. Share your story with April Howard over a cup of coffee so she can most appropriately guide you and your business into new heights and create a most mutually beneficial relationship.
Phil Altemeyer with the Union Gospel Mission. How are you? It's been a while since I've seen you.
It's great to be with you. I'm a little worried you introduced your boy and his birthday as being old. That must make us ancient.
It does.
So I was a little worried, but it's great to be in company that we're still young and moving ahead in life.
Well, my sister a couple of years ago turned 65, and at 65, I said, I can call you ancient. No, you can't. Yes, at 65, you started calling me that, Karen. So I'm ancient, and she is now too, and she just does not like that. Anyway, yeah, it's. We can sit back and relax, or we can continue to do things that are good for the community.
Yeah.
And you do that. You and your people.
Yeah.
Just to preface, before we get into some of the discussion, I had that opportunity a couple weeks ago to come see your facility on, what is it, Trent there?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we got one right down the street, our women's shelter. It's just a few blocks from this studio.
What a great approach. What great, and I mentioned this to you before we started, your people. Barbara took me around and introduced me, and I got to see the various facilities on the chart on the wall and so forth. But what amazed me was when we were at that what I would call the intake area there for folks to come in and get help, was the staff at the desk. Now, we've all gone into businesses where, sometimes they can't be bothered with you. They even look up.
Yeah.
Your people responded to the questions I was asking and everything else, and were so helpful.
Yeah.
You have good people working there.
We have a phenomenal. When I started, there were 8 staff, and between all our enterprises today, we have 180. And I continue to marvel at the quality of people and the calling on their life to help the poor, and who we see join our staff. It's remarkable.
Yeah. First thing I want to talk about is World Homeless Day Summit. What is that?
Well, that's a day when everyone stops and says, let's focus on homelessness.
Okay.
And so we've wanted to do something different. We've gone down and cleaned up the city. We've done different awareness things. This year we're going to do a little summit because I feel there's a need in our city to educate the public as to what homelessness is all about. Because we get flashes of it, we get pictures, and without question, Kent, you and I have been in Spokane most of our lives. We have seen our city change.
Yes.
And people are saying, what is going on?
Right.
And so we want to address the causes. We want to address some of the ways in which people are trying to make a difference, systems that are broken that I believe are not working, and talking about what it means to help and not enable. And what I say, to have compassion with wisdom, and not simply compassion that keeps people homeless, says that's not what we want to do. We want to help people.
Right.
We believe they have so much ability. They're creating the image of God, and it's not to be homeless.
Right. I think it's not just throwing money and rocks, literally, at them and solving the problem. And the second thing that comes to mind is, I think back to when I was young, and the issue of homeless, it's not the same anymore, is it?
No,
it's not what I grew up with those folks that were mainly had lost, couldn't pay their rent or got kicked out for one reason or another, and literally were on the street because they had no place to sleep. That's not what we're really seeing today, is it?
No, when you and I, the main cause for homelessness back when we grew up was probably alcoholics.
Okay, yes.
Okay? Today, it's drugs.
Yes.
And alcohol takes a long time to catch up with a person. Drugs, it's overnight.
Right.
And then when we grew up, the family was a stable institution. Today it's not. There's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of pain in people's lives, and then we have a society that did not feed the problem, they helped the problem. And today, if we look at our structure, without us being aware, we're actually rewarding the behavior that oftentimes does not cause someone to say, you know, I want something different. We just enable a behavior and, again, reward the wrong behaviors. We don't do that, Kent, in our educational system. We don't do it in parenting, raising our kids. But when it comes to the homeless, we do the very opposite. We reward the worst behavior with a brand new apartment that we pay as taxpayers for. And we say a building over a person's head is going to change them. And again, it's a heart issue. And when you don't address the drug issue and just put them in a building,
the issue is still there.
Nothing changes. And so, again, we just believe that you create an environment where people that want change, because this is the other thing, Kent, we don't talk about. As much as I want to end homelessness in our city, I can't stop the person that wants to sleep on the street from sleeping there. It's his choice. Now, we can enforce laws that don't allow it, but in terms of choice, I can't change anyone except myself. And we want to end homelessness for people that, quite frankly, have chosen to sleep on a street. There's shelter beds available. They're not even going into them now. So what is that about? And so, again, we have to recognize we get sometimes what we allow, and as a city, we're allowing an awful lot right now.
I'm going to kind of come from my own personal position, but it seems like we have a city council and leadership there currently that just continues and continues to claim it's not enough beds, and it's the white people, the rich people on the South Hill that don't want to come downtown because it's unsafe and it's you know, me against them and so forth. That's not really what it is.
No, you know, but we have to be honest that our downtown is not what it used to be.
No, that is
and
true.
And it isn't as safe as it used to be. In fact, I could tell you stories of family members that have had people chase them and throw rocks at them. They did not feel safe. They had to call 911. Many people have experienced other things. It's not the same downtown you and I grew up with. But the other thing is, it's interesting, Kent, when you study up and down the West Coast, the cities that have bought into the government's philosophy of helping people have the most amount of money being poured into it. And guess where the largest amount of homeless exists? In those cities. And Spokane has followed that model. Instead of looking at a model that challenges people, adds accountability, responsibility, we continue to throw more money at it. And again, we were told housing first. 2019, chronic homelessness would go away. We would house enough of them. I'm going to tell you, you can't build enough housing. We're not ahead of the game, we're behind the game, and we'll never catch up. And that is not the answer, just building a house and putting a roof over someone's head.
Now, there are a couple of terms that I'm not sure I completely understand, and I'm sure some of our viewers don't. And I'm going to look at it here. No barrier, low barrier, and high barrier shelters. Can you explain those three?
I think it's really important for people to know that when you receive government funds, you can ask nothing or any responsibility from a person. So if an addict wants to come into your facility and they're using, they can come and continue to use. And for an addict...
Wait. They can come in and continue to use.
Totally. And they can come in under the influence of drugs. And so there's no accountability to their choice or bringing them out of that. You have to serve them. And you cannot require anything. You can't ask them to do anything. See, we believe that dignity is restored when people give back, that we were created actually in the image of God. And the Bible tells us given a responsibility is what restores that dignity. How many people can't, when they retire and they lose their job, kind of lose a sense of who they are? Work is part of how God created us and a sense of our dignity. We restore that. We have requirements. A low barrier shelter, which is all the government funded shelters, cannot require anything of a person. Therefore, you see what you do downtown. We have two low barrier shelters downtown. And again, people just come in there, eat and serve, and there's really not a lot they can do. The extreme behavior they can deal with if there's extreme violence. But apart from that, and our goal is to create a safe environment where people can come, and if you want to get out of the drug scene, you want help, you want change in your life, you can go there. And by the way, when you talk about the homeless today, the person that's having a difficult time making a payment, lost his job, those people bounce right back from all the social networks and the resources that are out there to help them.
That's not a long-term thing.
No, we're looking at, when we look at the street, we're looking at addiction, mental illness. Mental illness is 2 out of 10. So you're looking at the major issue being addiction. And if we don't address that issue and enforce what's happening in our city in terms of crime, sleeping on the streets, we end up with chaos.
Well, your approach is a little different, and it gets criticized sometimes by what I would call the left and the critics in our city council and others. But you have a higher barrier and you have expectations. Tell us how you work on that, because I was absolutely amazed at not only the staff, but in seeing the people there at the men's shelter on Trent. I expected to see something different.
I think they're a clean, sober, safe environment is our priority. So, Kent, here's what I would say to people to think about. How did you raise your kids? How does the school system operate? It operates in a system that you have a safe environment to learn. If you let chaos reign, nothing. And when you raise your kids, if they made bad choices, you didn't give them candy when they made bad choices. The irony to me is when you move into the field of homelessness, we've done the opposite. We have rewarded those with addiction and who have been homeless the longest with free housing. No free housing. And we, the taxpayers, pay for it. And they get the best of housing, brand new housing. And so what I'm saying is, are we surprised they're lined up when we're encouraging and supporting? And low barrier shelters, there is no accountability to the choices you're making. You can't ask the person to do anything. Well, what happens? You enable. And if you study enablement, they lose their gratitude, they become demanding, and they expect. And last year we witnessed that in our city with the tents downtown. Give us a warming center. Now here's what I'm going to say, Kent. We have people right now talking about warming centers. We have people all across our city right now that aren't willing to come in to a shelter and get the services that are provided. Now winter will roll around, we'll go, oh, we got to take care of them. We got to take care of them. And they're going to demand it, and how many people in the tents last year said, give us a warming shelter? They opened the warming shelter, and guess what? They stayed in their tents.
Yeah.
It's that enablement. It's that expectation. The government, you as a society owe us food, shelter. You owe us medical. And again, how do we build dignity in people and change that as a culture? Again, it's
Through
saying
work and responsibility.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and accountability. And I believe that a lot of these individuals could be drastically helped if there was accountability and responsibility added in their life.
Yeah.
And so to me, the system, and I think it's interesting, a new report just came out just 2 days ago, and they're studying homelessness, and the Trump administration is addressing that housing first needs to change, and they're empowering communities to put conditions with it and responsibility. It hasn't worked. And I'm excited to see that the opportunity is there for us as a city to begin to head in a different direction.
Right.
But you're right, Kent. It's going to take leadership from the city council and the people we elect to change the policies and their view of what it means to move beyond just saying it's a housing problem, to looking at the real core issue. It's a heart issue. It's people's decisions. We need to provide an environment, and that's what we do,
Right.
where people that want help can come
Yeah.
and get the help they need. We placed 200 people on jobs last year.
Wow.
How are you going to end homelessness?
Yeah.
You got to get people working.
Yes.
And you got to help them work through the wounds, the pains
Right.
that have caused their
It
addictions.
does not happen overnight.
Yeah, and you're exactly right.
Right.
Takes
And it
time.
takes people to walk with them.
Exactly.
On that path, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it really does.
It's in relationships that people are wounded.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's in safe, healing relationships, good relationships
Yes.
that people are healed, and that's what we provide.
I took the tour through the men's facilities, but you've got other facilities, including one in Coeur d'Alene, too.
Yeah.
Kind of go over it real quick.
Well, it's amazing. 33 years ago I came, the whole focus was men. We had
Yeah.
a men's shelter, and we have one crisis shelter, Ogden Hall. Today we have 3 women and children's shelter,
Yeah.
one in Coeur d'Alene, 2 here in Spokane. One's crisis, one's long-term, and then we have the men's
Right.
crisis and long-term.
Yeah. You've done an awful lot in how many years? 33?
Well, 33, but I haven't done it. I've had great staff,
Yeah.
and we've had a community that believes in what we are doing, a very compassionate
Yes.
community, and I believe this too, Kent, when we talk about homelessness. It's not just about compassion, it's having compassion that has wisdom.
Yes.
And asking the hard
Good
question,
point.
is
Yes.
what I'm giving my money to making a difference? Is it simply just keeping someone there? Are we really loving people enough to say, I don't want to see you homeless the rest of your life. I'm not going to support what you're doing. I'm going to give you a choice, but I can't control your choice.
Right.
But I'm going to hold you accountable to make a choice that you live with and not support you in your bad choices.
What percentage of your budget comes from government?
0. And that's why we have the freedom to hold people accountable.
Right.
We have the freedom to minister to the total person,
Right.
physical, spiritual, emotional,
Right.
no limitations.
Right. That
And
really makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, the scripture says, Kent, out of the heart flows the actions.
Yeah.
If you don't address issues of the heart, you're not changing a person. So we want to address those issues.
You know, Phil, there are so many things that we can talk about. Will you come back on a regular basis and bring? Can you bring someone who's
I'd
in the
love to
program?
have them come tell their story.
Because that,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I can
That's-
talk about what we've
Yeah.
seen and so forth,
Yeah.
but to have someone say, this is what it's done
Yeah.
in my life, will, I think, make a difference. And you're going into the season now where you're going to be asking for the community to step up, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people can go to the website, which would be,
Union Gospel Mission, Spokane.org.
okay, all right, and you're on Facebook too?
Yeah, you betcha.
All
yeah,
right. All
you
right.
bet.
Good.
You bet.
Thank you for coming.
You bet.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, okay?
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
This is Bloomsday in Spokane. We got about 40 firefighters and their friends and family handing out 40,000 cups of water as the day goes by.
It's a very good opportunity to see the public and support them and help them out and cheer them on during Bloomsday.
It's one of the best things about Spokane is that we have these major events and the whole community comes together not just to participate but to volunteer and show that they really care about our city and making our city look great.
This type of an event really is emblematic of Spokane because so many people get involved. We have 50,000 people probably running this race. Always has been a very huge event.
Right now we're at the corner of Broadway and Nettleton. It's the last water station before the finish, so people are pretty much dehydrated by the time they get to us. They really need our water.
The water stations are a vital part, especially on warm days like today. It's real important that we have the volunteers to help with that. Without the volunteers, Bloomsday wouldn't exist.
All up and down the course, there are people that are involved in this celebration. It really is a celebration of what Spokane's all about.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Welcome to Tom Sawyer Country Coffee.
Tom Sawyer Country Coffee only roasts the finest organic coffee for our signature blends. Enjoy a cup at our coffee shop and local businesses and organizations across the region.
I'm Tom Sawyer, and we choose the Pacific Northwest.
Welcome to a new kind of talk show, Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversations that include respect for opinions, facts, and diversity.
Spokane Talks, Saturdays at 8 a.m. on Fox 28.
Well, welcome. My guest during this segment is Mike Miloscia. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
All right. There's hope for me. You know, these names beyond Adams and Smith are sometimes a little difficult, right? Italian.
That's right.
All right. Did you bring spaghetti?
No, but I love spaghetti and lasagna and pasta. Grew up in a very Italian-American tight family
neat.
Back in Queens, New York.
In Queens, New York. Wow.
That's right.
Oh, you've come some distance,
Yeah,
haven't you?
the folks got off Ellis Island, and they didn't move very far.
Yeah.
Back in 1905, the Miloscia clan. That's where it started.
Oh, my gosh. That's neat. That's neat to be able to go back for the history, too. You're with the Family Policy Institute of Washington. So you're now in Washington and have been for a while, haven't you?
That's right.
Oh, you've been in the Air Force? You've
Yes.
been a pilot? You've been in the legislature? Is that where you were?
That's right.
Okay.
I was a director at Goodwill. I ran a mental health agency.
Okay.
I was a lobbyist for the Catholic Conference.
Okay.
I've done a lot, substitute teacher for 12 years.
Oh, right. When did you rest?
Oh, well, I'll wait till I'm dead, and then I'll rest, in heaven.
Okay. You can sit back and relax at that
Exactly.
point, right? You're doing a kind of an Eastern Washington tour.
Correct.
Because you cover all of our state here and so forth. Sometimes I think it's a state of confusion, at least on the west side with all that's going on. But as you look at it, what are some of the key issues right now that are really affecting families?
Well, it's good you mentioned that. I was an elected official from the Federal Way area for 21 years.
Oh, that long? Okay,
yes, I was in both the House, the Senate. I was a local commissioner.
Okay.
And I've seen our state change greatly,
Okay.
Unfortunately in the wrong direction. Families are broken
Yes.
in our state.
Yes.
Marriages are broken.
Yes.
People are leaving their faith. And you may know this, our state and our nation was founded on a Judeo-Christian culture.
Right, right.
Virtues and values. But we're giving it all up, and now we're seeing the results.
Yeah.
Seattle's dying. I don't know if you saw that newscast
Absolutely,
done.
absolutely.
The drugs and the homelessness, the vice has gone rampant in our culture. And broken families, broken marriages, you cannot survive. So that's what we're seeing. Our state is moving into a bad place, and people expect government to solve the answers, and it's not working.
No. One of the things that I see, and it might come from my 40-some years ago YMCA executive experience and so forth, is that I see a lack of involvement from fathers in the family and with their children today. Do you see that too, and the effect it has on families and ultimately our communities?
Well, the data is clear. I mean, ever since the 60s and the Moynihan report came out by Senator Moynihan, who used to work for social services back then, said,
Right.
without a stable family with a father leading it, you have poverty, you have mental illness, you have drugs, you have people falling apart. And so right now, broken families, with families without fathers, now we're seeing why our society is in such a sad state.
Yeah.
It comes back to you need a mother and a father and a marriage, a loving marriage relationship to survive in our society. And right now, that's broken.
Yeah, it is. It is. Now, you spent 21 years as a senator, as a House a rep and so forth. You're now on the outside.
Yes.
How are you seeing politics and what's going on in our state?
Well, as anybody who's been on social media, you've seen it's gotten bitter and ugly.
Yes.
There's a lot of hate, especially directed at Christians. I think there's a coming religious war happening. You see some of the nameplate organizations like Union Gospel Ministries, some of the Catholic churches, the Knights of Columbus, Christa Ministries, on and on, all getting persecuted for practicing and speaking their faith in the public square. And so it's starting to get really hard for folks right now. Yeah. And this radical hatred, where if you just proclaim your faith, your biblical faith, you're considered a bad person, a hater, or a bigot.
Right.
It's starting to be very unseemly. And we see it, like I said, in all our institutions, academia, Twitter, even the news media.
Yeah.
Just last week, there was a article, I have it here, where a columnist in the Seattle Times said it's time for the Republican Party to dump God. And
really?
Yes, absolutely. Danny Westney, right after the election, said if the Republicans wanted to be successful, they needed to dump the God stuff. And, well, I think that's moving in the wrong direction. If you dump God in our society, nothing stands.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that, and it's being replaced by this anger and this hatred toward people, especially Christians.
And socialism and all the things that come with that. What steps... There are steps, obviously, that the state can take and so forth, but what can you and I, as normal, everyday, believing people, parents, grandparents, I'm proud to be, my best role in life is being a grandparent. What can we do to help turn things?
Well, as a Christian, we are called in the Great Commission to go out and make disciples all nations, to love your neighbor, to forgive.
Sometimes that's not always easy.
Oh,
is
it's
it?
not hard. Trying to forgive your enemies, and to do good to those who persecute you.
Right.
We're just called to spread the good news. And when you promote virtues in your community, and when you meet your neighbors, and you talk about what's important to you, and you have a stable family and a stable marriage, and you're raising and your children correctly, a whole community benefits from that.
Right.
And so we need to go back and promote the basic values that made our Judeo-Christian civilization what it is today, the most prosperous in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
And you look at what I call the neo-pagan governments out there. Remember, we saw the Soviet Union, Communist China. They're all falling apart. And Europe, they're probably 10 years ahead of us. They've given up any sense of faith of religion, and nobody's having children, and they're being, frankly, overrun and dysfunctional.
Yet there are places like in Hong Kong where they wish they had our kind of government.
Absolutely.
To see those protests over there compared to some of the left here in our country, what a contrast.
So that's my call to Christians here, is to all of them to let their light shine. Don't take their light from under the bushel basket. Be the salt of the earth, the salt of their community, and their community will get better and prosper. Their city will get better and prosper if they do that.
Mark, you're here for several things this week, including the We Believe We Vote meeting and other things. Who are you going to be talking to this week?
Well,
and you already have started.
Absolutely. I've been meeting with Christian pastors and activists, and I've been meeting with people of the media also, and some of our supporters and different organizations. We believe We Vote is doing what we're doing, holding elected officials accountable to the good public policy in the public square. So we're trying to make sure that model is spread across all communities.
Yes.
In fact, the city of Spokane is ahead of the rest of the state in what they're
Yes.
doing with We Believe We Vote, so support them for sure. And we're going to spread that model and hold everybody from the governor on down accountable to make sure they pass good policy that strengthens families, supports life, religious freedom, and make sure we have what we call true Christian social justice. And the best examples of that is like the Salvation Army or the Union Gospel Ministry.
We've got some great organizations
Yes, you do.
in town that are often attacked by some on the political side, but are actually providing the right kinds of services and making a real difference.
That's right.
Rather than just putting rocks out so no one can sleep on the ground and so forth.
Or passing out needles and heroin.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
I don't get that at all.
Oh, the crime, deaths are skyrocketing in King County where I live. The government has literally given up enforcing any sort of law and drug use, and now people are starting to introduce bills that are literally will destroy our community. There's a bill last year literally to legalize child pornography, to legalize child prostitution. Those are bills moving to the legislature. Nobody knows about it.
Here in our state?
In our state.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding at all.
Wow.
That's happening. Besides other bills which are literally taking away parental rights.
Yes.
In every form, where a child could go out and literally cut off their body parts using government money because of this, what we call this fake gender ideology that's really confusing children all over the state. And it's a sickness
children
that's
be
spreading.
children.
Let children be children. And let's not leave them down something past where they're taking these hormones and this drastic surgery when they're young children. That's insane.
You must have a website and Facebook site and all of that. How
Yes.
can people find out more about your organization?
FPIW.org.
Oh, that makes it kind of simple.
Pretty easy. Go there, sign up on your email, join us on Facebook, join the 25,000 followers we have, our supporters. We're only as strong as people joining us and listening to what we're saying is going on in Olympia, going on in your different counties. And we'll give opportunities to people to serve, to make a difference, strengthen fatherhood, strengthen marriages, strengthen local communities. So come to our site and be part of this new movement that's growing in Washington State.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
God
coming
bless.
today. All right. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you next time on The Pulse.
The Pulse of Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. The Pulse of Spokane is brought to you in part by Homes for You, Well Dressed Walrus, and Spokane Firefighters Local 29. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.